Well, during the war, the enemies were our enemies, and they were vicious enemies, and they were those Japs. And my mom really hated the Japs, and even after the war, she didn't forgive. And here she is, with a bunch of them.
That was a good one. Not a very good story, Ray. You need to tell something to make up for that.
I'm going to use that in a church talk.
She was a good Relief Society president.
She was a wonderful lady, but she never really got over the war.
That was the best thing I've ever heard. Aren't you glad you came from Park City? Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, tell us about your dad, Ramon.
Eskel Johnson was 1.5 years old when his mother died, giving birth to his brother Bill.
Wait, who was?
Eskel.
Dad, my dad.
Eskel.
What
his
did you
dad.
say, giving birth?
No.
His wife was giving birth.
Oh, his word.
Did I say the wrong thing?
No.
Eskel's mother.
Mom hears
Eskel's
the wrong
mother.
His mother was giving birth to Bill.
Brother.
She died when my dad was 1.5, so he never had a mother. And then his dad died when he was 12, so he was an orphan at 12. And people in Santaquin took turns sort of taking care of him. But he really was,
Orphan.
a kid that was, he looked like an abandoned kid. We have one picture. What picture do we have?
School pictures.
We have some pictures. He just looks like
Nobody was looking out for him.
he's a little vagabond or something.
Oh,
And,
Eskel Anstrom
So
Johnson.
when he was, I don't know, about 18 or 19,
No.
he did learn how to paint from his older brother. And his older brother had learned how to paint from his father. My
His
dad's.
father was Lars Enstrom Johnson.
Yeah. So when my dad came to Salt Lake, he was a painter. And then it turned out that in those days, the small towns couldn't support people. You know, they just didn't support. So my mom had to leave Richfield and come to Salt Lake because the family couldn't support her anymore. She was about 18. And she lived in the
Lioness.
When you say they couldn't support, you mean there just wasn't enough work for people to do,
just
or?
not enough work or money.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't feed them.
Okay.
It was really an impoverished period of time.
Hmm.
And so Dad came to Salt Lake and Mom came to Salt Lake and lived in the Beehive House.
Hmm.
And she made some good friends there for a lifetime. And then they got married. Neither one of them finished high school.
And Eskel, was he born in Santaquin and raised where?
Santaquin.
He was raised in Santaquin.
Raised in Santaquin. And then it wasn't unique to Richfield that they couldn't support people. It was quite a few of these towns. So he has Vernal Hendrickson, Keith Bowman from
Monroe.
Monroe, yeah. And Duke Forbush, who isn't a family member but is close. He was from Monroe. Who did I leave out? Oh, Claire Hansen. I don't know what town he's from. His wife is his wife.
No, these are like brothers.
Anyway, he taught them all how to paint. They came to Salt Lake without skills. All these guys.
Because Julia's family only had one boy, Vernal, and the rest were sisters.
Okay. Anyway, my dad taught all these guys the trade. And they had, as far as I know, successful careers.
And you learned it.
I learned.
You're an
I learned
excellent
it from
painter.
him. And,
Wallpaper hanger,
yeah.
woodworker,
We still have stuff in our house.
electrician.
We still have
Your
stuff in
dad's
our
tools.
house from a wallpaper in your room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That grandpa?
Grandpa did that.
Oh, your glasses.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so what are some of your early childhood memories, Dad? You lived in beautiful Lowell Avenue. There were so many happy families in those homes, in that little inlet circle. You would just stay outside all day and play, and
Yeah.
the rose bushes divided
It
your
wasn't
house
unique
from the
to
neighbors.
us. It was the way the whole town was, seemed like. Well, I should say everybody in our broad neighborhood was a family with a mother and a father, and they lived at home. The mother stayed at home and worked in the home, and nobody was rich. Nobody had very much money, but in fact, we were really poor, economically poor, but nobody felt poor. We really didn't. Nobody felt poor. We didn't know it at the time, but we had unlimited opportunity, and most of us took advantage of it. And most families were like mine, that they had never been to college, and our generation was the first to go to college. Janet, Dee, me, and Marvin all went to college. So we broke out of the mold, sort of.
Did
That
your
was it.
neighbors do the same?
Yeah. Yeah, all my friends were in college. Went to high school and college. And then the funny thing about it was, as poor as we were, as soon as we got 16, we bought cars. We had cars.
Because you worked as a newspaper.
Yeah, but isn't it funny?
Yeah.
With my paper route for 7 years and summer jobs, I was able to get enough money to buy a car. And my first car was just an absolute beauty. It was a 41 Ford, beautiful
What color was it?
gray, bluish gray. And it was essentially in perfect condition, but I got tired of it because I had a plastic thing on the dash. And it's kind of funny. I sold it and bought a 49 Ford. It was 49 Fords were really ugly,
You just kept.
but my
Trading.
my 41 was
First
really
one was pretty.
really neat.
I remember you said something, like you just referred, you said we were poor, but we didn't know it. You said every year when we started school, we had a new pair of shoes and we had a new coat every winter.
Well, I don't know that. That might be true. I don't know.
Well, your mom was a good
Don't remember
provider.
that for sure.
She always bought butter. She was very economical with her money. She
She was.
managed.
We ate really well. My feeling is that we ate really well. That my mother was dedicated to her family, so was Dad. We never did much recreation because Dad, it was uncomfortable if he wasn't working. So he worked 6 days a week, and he would have worked 7 if people would let him. But
I remember his garden. He had a beautiful backyard.
Mhm.
You had that redwood terrace where you could sit under in the shade.
yeah,
We'd go over and help plant in the spring.
I made that for our parents
You made that?
when I was a teenager.
Oh my
Made that.
gosh. It was like a covered deck. And it was big. You had picnic tables under there.
And I had a friend.
Multiple picnic tables.
I ordered concrete, and the truck came, and I had a friend that came to help me, Larry Wilkins, with the cement, with the concrete to move it. And it turned out that he had to be at his work, and we got in trouble because with cement, you've got to do it when it's the right time. And he lost his job because he
it's
stayed
helping
and helped
you?
Oh,
me
you're kidding.
do cement work.
I thought you were going to say
What a good friend.
he left
Larry
you to
Wilkins.
go to the
Wow.
job.
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
Yeah, I made that.
And you raised rabbits for food.
Originally, early on, every Easter we'd get little chicks and then raise the chickens, and eventually eat them. And then when they grew up and were really ugly, When I was younger, we raised rabbits, and I never was involved with rabbit raising, but I can remember it. And we'd buy pellets and feed the rabbits and eat them. They were good meat,
I remember a
quite a
story.
bit like chicken.
You said that Grandpa was so kind to the neighborhood kids, and he would get candy, and if a kid came late and he had run out of candy, he went to the store and bought more candy for that child.
He did. And when he'd go to Santaquin, he'd give candy to the kids. They loved Uncle Eskel. And yeah, I saw Louise Kennington, who's our neighbor, years later. She just looked at me and she said, "Oh, your dad, Eskel Johnson, was a saint." And I was too stupid to say, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Why?" She said he
She
was a
was the
saint.
next door neighbor.
And I used to jump on the roofs between our house and their house to show off to my mom. And she would put on an act that she didn't want me to do it, but she really liked it. And
You
then
think?
Then I would jump from our roof down to the ground too, where she was sitting.
To scare her.
Awesome.
So I was a show off. I loved
You had
being
that.
able to show off and getting on high places, climbing, and then when I was in construction, I was always the guy that was way up high trying to do something.
Because you're so athletic.
I was show off. I wasn't afraid.
You have that locust tree out front. I remember raking up those seed pods. Never did I dream that I'd move to a house that had locust trees.
but
and
yours-
be raking seed
At
pods
least
forever
yours
and ever.
don't have those thorns,
Oh, we have some thorns.
do you?
But I do remember your
That-
parents'
that-
tree.
That tree that Mom and Dad had was just a
Vicious.
dreadful thing.
But it
Should
did have a
been
nice
right
swing.
out of hell.
A tree.
Had big pods that would fall, and then it had thorns that were this long, with multiple
Yours,
thorns.
that was different.
Just awful thorns.
So what was the favorite thing that Grandma Johnson would make for you? What do you tell us about her cooking? Because I remember her in the kitchen. She'd wear a house apron.
She loved him. That was her calling. She just loved to cook for the family, me and everybody. And at events like, Christmas, a big larger family. She just loved it. It was her calling. And she was a
Remember what
good
she made?
cook. We didn't have fancy food, but it was very good food.
I remember her egg salad.
Oh,
Potato salad.
That's what I meant, potato salad.
yeah, she made great potato salad.
And like somebody would say, take it to Grandma Julia to see what it needs, and she'd taste it and she'd say a little more mustard or
Oh,
whatever.
is that
you
right?
know?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cute.
Well, what she did was remember the people in Santaquin and Nephi, and every year she was very careful to buy Christmas gifts for all of Raymond's cousins and relatives, and they were very grateful for that. Don't you remember Les and Mina Broadhead complimented Julia because she always would send them something like a football, something really thoughtful that they could use at Christmas time.
And
Sweet.
funny thing was, we within the family never knew that somehow. Maybe just didn't pay attention. Probably.
But you didn't pay attention to a lot of family
Oh, I
things.
just,
Well, kids are oblivious.
and we paid. All of us would play in the neighborhood, go out and play, and then at dinner time, our moms would call us at the door, front door. Hey man, come home and eat. That was the way it was. The whole
Yeah,
neighborhood was that
just
way.
playing outside.
Just play, and there was no supervision, no adult supervision for anything.
That's how it should
It
be.
was all kids.
And you had that
And-
great sledding hill on 7th
Oh yeah.
South between 9th and 10th East.
In those days, they had coasting lanes, they called them, and they would block off streets so you could sleigh ride on them all winter. And they'd get packed down with snow, and they were just fabulous for flexible flyer sleds that you could turn, and you could just go roaring down from 11th East all the way down to 9th East.
That's a big hill.
Yeah.
Steep hill.
from 11th to 9th.
Ugh,
And
scary.
seems like we do it all day. I don't know if we did.
You didn't have fleece or Gore-Tex.
Yeah. But
It doesn't matter when you're a kid.
then think about it, you know, it's too dangerous. Then a kid in our neighborhood was killed, Richard Bush, really a good kid. He was killed because some car was backing out, I guess.
Oh,
and
dear.
ran into him. And so the city stopped having coasting lanes. Even our street was a coasting lane. Lowell Avenue was a coasting lane. I never could figure out why 7th South and then a half a block away, Lowell Avenue was too.
Tell us about holidays. I remember on the 24th, Grandpa would set up his painting ladders with planks, and everybody would go down. It's a big tradition to watch the parade.
Oh yeah. That was a big deal. Dad would go down really early, park his truck in a good spot, and then he'd put planks up on his truck because he had a frame on it in the back. And we'd sit there and watch the parade. And then one year, because I was involved with Indian dancing with my scout troop, and Mr. Condi, we tried to make all our costumes authentic. Anyway, we danced in the parade. Tried to scare little kids. Nobody was afraid of us. And Bob Lee was my close friend. He always looked like a Greek god in his physical. Okay, you know, he had a perfect physique from the time he was a little kid. He never had to work out to get it. He was just magnificent. And he'd put on that Indian outfit with the headdress, horns that went up the right way. And then my Uncle Vernal took a picture of us in the parade. There's Bob with this magnificent looking outfit on. And here I am with this headdress that was too big for me. So my horns are sticking out this way.
That's awesome.
And
No,
you're,
I didn't
you're
know.
small, and you didn't have a six-pack like
So-
Bob.
That was a real come down when Uncle Vernal gave me that photograph.
Because you felt so good dancing and scaring the kids.
Boy, I thought I looked like Bob Lee.
That's so awesome. Okay, so what about other holidays? I remember Christmas morning we would go to Grandma and Grandpa Johnson's house
Well,
for
just-
breakfast
that was-
and presents.
That was her paradise, sort of having the whole family over for a breakfast, big breakfast. And we've got that one photograph of her going
in
like
the
this.
kitchen.
With
That would
oven
be-
mitts on each hand.
And she was so happy to
Yeah.
have everybody over and have a big breakfast. And dirty pots and pans used to pile up in that sink because we didn't have a disposer. And it was just dreadful. And I always had like a guilty conscience about things in the sink. And if I relate back to a story that Janet told, that I can't imagine that it was true. She said that one day I wouldn't go to church. And Mom said, if you don't go to church, you've got to do the dishes. You've heard that story.
No, I haven't.
So when they came home, there were little footprints all over the walls and the ceiling. And I'd made a little thing out of a potato. I'd stamp it.
A
Oh.
stencil?
Yes.
I made these footprints all over things, but I didn't do the dishes. But anyway,
What a naughty boy.
I know. I can't imagine that. I don't think I did
With paint? You put paint? Or
that.
what?
I don't know what I used.
Grape juice.
At least it wasn't
Anyway,
Okay,
Janet
the
Janet
next-
always had stories that
Did you go to church the week after that?
I might have.
I might
I
have.
hope so.
So tell us.
I was going to say, that might be why I can't stand a whole bunch of dishes in the sink. I have a guilt complex.
Oh.
From that long ago.
When you get to heaven, you're going to say, I'm sorry about the dishes.
Actually, the people who washed the dishes after those families' parties was Dee's wife, Joanne, and me. Because Marvo was always talking